Killer. Value. Wow.
He's using killer's account.
I know, he's using killer's account. Goswser user versus Value. This is EVP on Entombed Valley.
Is this the killer account that Killer used to be on TSL back when he was with the captain and before he went to Complexity?
Most likely.
Yeah, it seems
sure it is.
Well, that's a lot of history. We can talk all about it right after we introduce our players. Starting in the top right from Team the SCV Life, it is Killer.
Nope.
Sorry, it is Value. I read his name.
You did the same thing I did.
I did the same thing you did. It's because I pulled up the nameplates on my thing and it says TSL Killer
yeah,
as well. It's kind of trippy, Andre. Value, of course, beat Inori yesterday's PvP looked really sharp, actually. With a lot of decision-making. Loved his game on Metropolis. But now look at this. He's going to immediately just block Goswser User's expansion and starting his own forward fast expand. We'll see what Goswser User's plan is. But go ahead, Andre. Introduce our player in the bottom left.
It is Goswser User, of course, the North American Zerg that has, in the eyes of Complexity, been doing really, really well. And honestly, I would have to agree with them. I think Goswser User is one of the talents that really, really shines. Entombed Valley, not the best map for Zergs, though. And it's unfortunate that Goswser User actually gets this straight off the bat, but he is going to go ahead and put a natural or a third base, whatever you want to call that. The third base location is going to be taken. That is a little bit unfortunate. Yes, creep is going to be spread right here, but it basically makes it such that Goswser User doesn't have any options but to take 3 fast bases. Now, normally the standard is to take 3 fast bases, but on a map like Entombed Valley, 4-gate pressure is actually very powerful. So you can be in a position where you haven't established any creep spread over here. You can't get your units, Zerglings, Roaches, all the way to your third base, and you have 2 isolated sections that will fall victim to a little bit of harassment.
But, you know, Goswser User not going to be too dismayed. In fact, he still kills upon a nice time, and Value is pretty much concerned with walling off his own ramp. A lot of people say, well, if the third's so exposed, why don't Protoss try to, cannon rush? There are tight spaces behind the middle line as well. Well, the fact is, Entombed Valley, your ramp at their natural is very exposed as well, so you give up a lot of minerals and early ability to defend against those Zerglings that they choose to run by. So it's a good decision.
That's exactly right. And Value, I love this probe over here. And it looks like he will start to cannon rush this natural. Now, this is very unfortunate. Oh, never mind. Okay. This is beautiful. Goswser User just going to keep every single tab on his expansions. That's really important. You have Zerglings patrolling around the area, making sure that you're not going to be falling victim to cannon rushing or even proxy pylons that could eventually be sort of, that basing point for some sort of warp gate aggression to start.
Well, we'll see what plan our Protoss player has. He's actually gassing, double gassing, but we'll see whether or not he takes gases 3 and 4. Some Protoss players even opting to gas at their natural, try to fake out the Zerg player in terms of when they can gas and their main. And that's kind of a really cool thing that we used to see, but we'll see what Value has in plan. Now, in Entombed Valley, Andre, what are some strategies that you'd like to see coming out of Protoss in this map?
I think 4-gate pressure into a third expansion is one of the best ways to play this. I mean, the fact of the matter is you always have high ground advantage whenever you're playing on this. And we do see this as well.
Oh.
It is a very fast third base. You do this pre-7 minutes sometimes, which might be exactly what we see right here. 400 minerals already stacked up. Now, there are a couple of indicators for Zerg to actually know this, of course. This will be the best. Actually scouting it.
Yeah. Well, and then again, you can't trust what you see all the time. But at the point you see that a Nexus is going up, you just want to constantly poke at it. Goswser User trying to take out the Zealot and regain a little bit of map control. Good micro from both players. In the end, Goswser User keeps 3 Zerglings at one hit apiece. So it's very, very nice. At the same time, Goswser User doing the right thing as well. Look at him. He's taking a 4th base, Andre, in the bottom center of the map.
And from here on out, all he should be focusing on is drones. We're going to look in the income tab. Nope, production tab. Right over here. The 8 drones, that should be very, very obvious. I would actually really implore him to take drones off of gas and make sure you can just constantly produce off of all of your injects, because it's so important to get that economic boost over a Protoss player that still has to defend against a lot of different all-ins. And metabolic boost is correct. A lot of people would think don't get even the metabolic boost, but you want to do that just to deny as much information as possible. But from here on out, I really feel like Protoss, because they've been playing so in the dark for a long time, they don't have the capacity of getting that robo too fast. they're in a position where it's like, oh man, you could be doing roach all in, mutas. I have to be careful.
Yeah, you have to be very careful because now Zerg gets to 8 gas, and that's where things get to get very scary. And it's actually really funny because I remember reading the final edit about Fruit Dealer's career of just how Fruit Dealer was one of those players that just was literally unpredictable and was able to play very aggressive, kind of, cheesy. He was Nidus laying into the main base of Kulos Ravine, if you can remember those games. But he also would do things like go up to 90 drones and rush bases and play extremely greedy. And it just seems like some Zergs are even kind of using that kind of basis. We're saying, I'm just going to play incredibly greedy because I know my opponent can't do anything. And we saw the power of what Zerg can do in that case. When you get every upgrade you want, you get every tech out. And especially with the Zerg ability to keep production up, Andre, it's very scary.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very worried to see if Killer can't make a push happen. Goswser will just run really, really far with this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to apply a little bit of pressure at some time or another. Even if it's fake pressure, you got to say, hey, I have the capacity of actually killing you right now. You better start making units. And that'll really, really force Goswser to say, okay, I need to be careful. Let me go ahead, make units, not concentrate on my income. But as we see it right now, Ventral Sex is being upgraded roaches as well. So I think what we're going to see is Goswser will be actually trying to pressure the front, probably over here on the left-hand side, and then coming in with a drop all the way on the right-hand side. What that'll do is really force all the Protoss units over here defending, and then all of a sudden it opens up a big lane for this right-hand side to really empower a drop, obviously attack 2 different places while you're actually dropping.
Yeah, you can see that Killer sees the roaches in the middle of the map as his observers constantly traversing across. And as a result, just like you said, Andre, he's able to really pressure that third, but loading up the Overlords will be a very, very key thing. Now, the natural does have a lot of space, but at the same time, there's not a lot of stuff in the main either for Value. Value has almost everything funneled at his natural front in terms of his tech, in terms of his upgrades. And so if Goswser can hit very, very nice spots, he'd be good. But what are the biggest priorities he wants to target down as soon as his Roach drops?
With the Roach drops, you really want to get the economy. That's the main thing that you have to actually focus down, and any sort of tech buildings, that's really important as well. We're going to see Goswser, he's actually just about max pretty much.
Yeah.
And for this to work, you really need to do, I think, you need to do like simultaneous drops, but maybe he actually, wow, he's going to drop directly on top of Killer. This is very risky, and on top of the fact Blink is just about to finish, I don't know if this is going to be that effective for
Blink
him.
does finish, Andre. Goswser's going to start to drop before he gets there. The Overlords aren't even target down, though, but Value going to drop all the force fields on top of his Stalkers, and the Roaches can't even go anywhere. Goswser has no landing zone. He's going to have to evacuate immediately and go straight to the mineral line, and Goswser loses a lot of supply. Roaches are targeting down almost instantaneously. Immortals are pretty safe, but another wave of Roaches do come to the natural ramp. With good enough force fields, though, Value is blinking very nicely, controlling space, and Goswser's aggression has been, for the most part, thwarted with 3 workers killed this entire battle.
God.
Look
at that units lost tab. That's a staggering amount. 9 units lost in the whole game. 64 for Goswser. That couldn't have gone worse, honestly. That maybe if he lost all of his Overlords, that could have gone worse. That's so unfortunate. I love the thought process of Goswser really punishing players for over-making sentries, but it's unfortunate, of course. Value was going a style where he was getting a lot of Blink Stalkers to actually move around the map. Remember, you have to think about actually defending against mutas. I think that's why we saw that. And it's just an unfortunate situation for Goswser because he will be playing from behind from here on out.
Let's take a closer look at what just happened as we keep an eye out on the army in the middle. You can see that immediately Goswser wanted to drop some of the units to immediately force pressure, but the force fields around the units, and now Goswser can't drop. There's just nowhere for the units to land, and he has to go to the middle line, losing more time. And the idea is, if you drop the Roaches one by one, they just get sniped instantaneously by the Roaches and Stalkers, and Stalkers had +2, Immortals had +2. Immortals were hitting for 60 damage per shot. Way too much.
Ouch. That is very painful.
Yes, and what makes
getting
it worse?
Punched hurts, Frodan.
It's like, getting hit by some of the highest DPS units in the game stings. And it's true, though, because I think Immortals, when they're hitting armored units, has one of the highest DPS. I think carriers with +3 are incredibly high as well. And I don't know. I think Banelings also against buildings are actually pretty high DPS.
Yeah,
as well.
that's
80 damage per shot. Pretty good.
Good God. Yeah, that's a lot.
But the thing is, I like that Goswser is trying to go back to the drum board, but at the same time, it's a little difficult because now he's invested so much that this is just, if he doesn't do damage, this is it. He can't do anything else. But Baneling drops is a good follow-up, I think, just because Protoss players have gotten a little bit too greedy with those kinds of things, not able to really deal with Baneling drops that well. But it comes down to the blink, and I think in Toon Valley, especially the positioning on the middle of the map can favor Protoss. But if you're confined to the natural, and Valley's playing a little bit too conservative, that's going to be a field day for the Banelings to drop into that clumped army.
That's absolutely right. But here's the thing about going Baneling drops when you are in ZVP. You need a huge bank of larvae if you actually want this to be effective. And it looks like we do have that. 2,000 minerals, not a lot of gas, which is a pretty big problem. You're going to be mainly Zerglings directly after that. The Banelings will obviously trade no matter what. They're going to trade some sort of DPS for their lives. But that is a hefty load of supply. 47 Banelings is going to be just in trading. So you are actually relying on whatever comes up after that to kill your opponent. It's very rare at a 200-200 versus 200-200 they actually see one person, or the Zerg actually take control.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Immediate force shields going out, blocking on the majority of the army. Great job thus far, but Value is losing almost everything in terms of his space control. But it may not matter. The force shields are staying so long, and the Bings are all clumping up on the right side. Goswser loses an incredible amount of supply, and everything that remains is not able to snipe the remainder of the heavy-hitting units. 2 Colossi survive. That is almost absurd to see when you go for direct Roach Bane drops onto the army. And now, the fact that you have the Stalker count and supporting units that hit heavy like Immortals and the Colossus, get out of here. I mean, it's so much damage. Goswser is not going to the whole forward base. In fact, Goswser really can't even confront this army whatsoever.
That's exactly right. I mean, the army is just too good from the Protoss over here. The follow-up is really, really tough. Banelings are not really that great against mass-bling Stalker armies plus Immortals and Colossus. That's just not the optimal route. From here on out, I mean, Goswser, we're just waiting for him to GG because you know, defending against that with this much retention from the Protoss army, Value is just way, way far ahead.
Love the sprinkling of some charge zealots. Love the fact that Value is blinking just a few Stalkers forward in case there are infestors waiting. And he's been doing a good job. Goswser trying to buy time, but realistically, this low-tier army from just Roaches of Goswser with just +1/+1 is not going to be able to do anything. The infestors immediately get dropped. GG. And Value takes game number 1 in this best-of-3 series in very, very, very solid fashion, Andre.
You know, we talk about this a lot. Zerglings and Roaches, even Banelings you want to add in there. They're good against the beginning, I would say, of Protoss army. But once they're able to actually stabilize and get a ton of Stalkers out and that core unit, whether it be the Mortal or the Colossus, in mass numbers, you really aren't that effective. You need to tech up into something like Infestors and like Hive Tech, and we didn't see any of that. And you can really see, this is a perfect example of that, where it's very tough to actually finesse a Protoss army just because the micro these days are just so phenomenally good. You saw those force shields in the big battle. You saw the Blink Stalkers just dodging all the Banelings. This is all evidence to really support that the basic 1/1.5 tier units are not going to be enough against the Protoss might.
That takes game number 1 on Toon Valley. We'll find out what happens in game number 2. It is Goswser's map choice. We'll find out what happens when we come back after this. Don't go anywhere. BRB in 1 minute.